Hello, and a big yo-ho to all our JoBros, JoHos, JoFos, and especially the JoNos. I am your Josis AJ. This is your JoNo Mr. AJ. It's JoJo Friday. We both have a crisp and regenerative glass of Rococo juice, and we have just watched episode 3 of Phantom Blood, Youth with Dio. Sweetie, first impressions.
Um, well, it was a big action scene, wasn't it?
It was. It was an episode long action scene, and oh my God, I love it so much.
No, I was kind of expecting Jonathan to end up being falsely accused, which I hate. I hate that kind of thing.
I know,
Uh,
I know. Babe, can I
but
can I make you a guarantee here and now? My Joseph guarantee to you. You don't have to worry about that for another 5 seasons or so.
okay, well, we
So
can stop after season 4 then. But
no,
the
it's season 5 is okay too. It's season 6 is where. And I have anticipated this from the time I suggested we do this. Season 6 is going to be hard for you, but um, leaving that aside, yes. So no false accusations. In fact, kind of the opposite, but we'll get into that in a minute. So we pick up where we left off. It's a dark and stormy night at stately Joestar Manor, and Jonathan has just told Dio, "Hey, I know you're a poisoner." But this time we get the further information. But guess what? I've just given Dad the antidote, and I'm gonna take you to jail. And Dio feigns remorse and says, "Oh, Jojo, I'm such a bad little boy. Would you please let me turn myself in?" And lest we think for 1 second that this is actually sincere, we instantly get an internal monologue of him telling us, "I'm just stalling so that I can use the mask." At this moment, as a watcher, babe, what do you think he means by use the mask?
well, I actually thought he was going to shove it in Jonathan's face.
Me too. Me too. I think that there's a really clever bit of misdirection going on here from Araki Sensei. Yeah, it seems like because in the previous episode we knew that was what he was planning to do. Um, so then Dio gives a little speech about how he's depraved on account of he's deprived. It's the West Side Story defense. It's because I was a gutter snipe and I never had anyone to love me. And we can see our our sometimes intelligent hero is totally falling for it. He's not being his brightest self in this moment. But luckily, who should show up at this very moment to stand in the way?
It's REO Speedwagon, and I thought the REO Speedwagon was going to have known him from his gutter snipe days.
Oh, no, Dio. Well, you raise an interesting question because REO Speedwagon kind of does know Dio. They are from the same neighborhood. They are both gutter snipes. And he knows actually exactly who Dio is. He doesn't seem to know him personally. They're not like childhood friends or something. But he tells Jonathan, "Hey, wait a minute. Do not listen to this depraved on account of he's deprived defense. I am deprived. And because I'm deprived, I grew up having to be able to tell good people from bad people. I can smell a good person versus a bad person. And my sense of smell is telling me Dio is as bad as they come." Now, babe, I'm curious. Did you take this as a literal thing or is this a metaphor?
I took it literally, but then again, I'm quite a literal kind of
Mm.
person.
I kind of, in the past, the many other times that I have read and watched Phantom Blood, I always took it as a metaphor. But this time around, I started thinking, I think we are supposed to take this literally. I think that there is something in this nature nurture thing where maybe you can smell the difference between a good person or a bad person. Maybe you can look at somebody's ear and tell where they're going to spend the night tonight. maybe you can taste somebody and know whether they're lying to you. Like maybe this is just what the JoJo verse is like. People are who they are all the way through, and it comes out in a physical way. Anyway, so Speedwagon is uniquely qualified to say this dude is bad news. And as we talked about a little bit last week, um, this is kind of the people talk about the racism, the soft racism of low expectations. This is like the soft classism of low expectations. Speedwagon is here to say, hey, just because you're raised with no advantages doesn't mean you have to have no honor. Look at me. I came from the same neighborhood. I had even fewer advantages because I wasn't adopted by a wealthy family, and I still have like a code of honor. Um, so then we get a big reveal, which is that Speedwagon brought along a witness to how evil Dio is. We've got the Asian apothecary who, I can't, I don't think that they name him in this episode, but I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say this is Wang Chung to go with REO Speedwagon. And he's just kind of being held against his will here. And who else is there, babe? It's not just the Asian apothecary. We've also got
The police.
the police. The police are there looking very much like they just walked off the set of Pirates of Penzance.
I quite
And
like the kind of steampunky vibe of it.
did you? I'm so glad.
I mean, if I think last week we were banging on about historical realism, which I think is spectacularly missing the point.
Oh yeah, no, I would not argue that JoJo is in any way striving for realism. But yeah, you liked this sort of I don't know, just like central casting London police with a bit of a twist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and standing there at the head of our Pirates of Penzance police, we've got George Joestar. Hey, he's out of bed and he's feeling so much better already because he had his antidote. Um, and even though the police are there, as I just referenced, the Asian apothecary does not believe that Dio is going to go to jail tonight because he has three moles on his ear. I'm 99% sure that in the manga it's five moles. I didn't go and double check, but I think it's five. And I think they changed it just to make it easier to animate, which is so often the case with like
It's
really
this. It's the
detailed bits.
it's the Danger Mouse excuse.
What is the Danger Mouse excuse?
Well, if you ever watch Danger Mouse, there's an awful lot of adventures they have in the dark, so they only had to
Yes.
animate their
Animate the
eyes.
eyes. Yes. I love Danger Mouse.
So
This
it's
is
just
one
that
of those great
whenever they
things.
ran out of money, they decided, all right, we'll switch the lights out, so we only have to animate Danger Mouse and Penfold's eyes.
Yes. And it's complete I think it's completely reasonable. Why not simplify things and spend a little bit more money on the amazing color palette that we're getting here? It is like a rave at a hot topic. There is like darkness and then these vibrant pinks and purples and blues. It is psychedelic and swirly and absolutely beautiful. And I think it really reflects both the emotional darkness and weight of this moment where this family is falling apart, and this moment as well where our period drama has turned into a trippy, dark fantasy vampire adventure with a lot of steampunk elements to it. Um, anyway, so Mr. Oh, let Pixie in, the little blonde vampire that rules my life. So Dio asks Jonathan, if I have to go to jail, could you please be the one to put the handcuffs on? Um, and Jonathan's like, okay, bro. In this moment, are you thinking, Jonathan, why are you confirming Dark Helmet's hypothesis?
Evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
Not really, because otherwise, how would the plot progress? I'm
That
like,
is a fair point. That is a fair point. Oh, I think our dog is transforming into a vampire. I don't know
And
if the
if he
microphone
hadn't
is
done it,
picking
then
this up.
one of the policemen would have done
One
it,
of the
and
police would have had to do it. But isn't it interesting that Dio wants it to be Jonathan? He really in this way that we will just keep talking about, he wants to be part of the geez, let me say that again. Blow star.
Nice!
He really wants to be part of the Joestar bloodline, like in the most literal way possible. This is really important to him. So Jonathan goes to put on the handcuffs on his foster brother, and Dio is speechifying even more. He says, I've learned my lesson. I was guilty of hubris. It is the human condition to inevitably fall. So, what's the real solution here? Is it to accept that this is the truth? Or is there another option, honey, to the human
well,
condition?
I don't know at this point. The human condition was the farthest thing from my mind because I just thought this is going to kick off in any second now.
Any second. Well,
I mean,
Dio's
the
answer,
ultimate solution to the human condition, I think, was the policeman shooting him.
or, I mean, this is what Dio actually explicitly says in his little speech. And the sub has a very iconic way of putting it. I reject my humanity. And he does. He puts on the mask. He goes to stab JoJo because he wants it to be JoJo specifically, that blood that activates the mask. And instead, George has to be a hero and ruin Dio's big moment, gets in between them, and it is George's blood that activates the mask. Do you remember who the mask originally belonged to, babe?
It was his wife,
It
George's wife,
was.
Jonathan's mother.
So there's a real symbolism here, kind of like a sperm and egg thing. Like Dio is taking the substance of the mother in the mask and then the fluid of the father in the blood and combining them to become a whole new person. It is actually a moment where his human life ends and a new kind of life is beginning. As I would argue, like as much a Joestar as Jonathan, he is as much a product of George and Mary Joestar as a vampire as Jonathan was as a baby. It's like a really powerful metaphorical moment. And are you, I mean, we've already established you were surprised that Dio was going to use the mask on himself.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's a really extreme way out. He is committing suicide in a very real sense. Um, and he is rejecting his humanity. And I will just pause here to say once again, do you remember when we were doing our little intro and I said to you, what is the big theme of JoJo that Araki wanted to convey? It was the magnificence of humanity. So could there be a greater sin in the JoJo verse than to choose to reject one's own humanity? I think that this is like, for Catholics, the greatest sin is to kill yourself. I think that this, in the Iraqi religion, whatever that might be, the greatest sin would be to reject humanity. Anyway, poor old George. He is stabbed. The cops shoot Dio in a very cool, like firing squad kind of effect. He falls through the window. And as George is dying, he's like, here's my ring. Let me give it to you, JoJo, which sparks the chief of police to tell a little story, as you do when you're watching somebody die, to say, like, none of this needed to happen because actually George has known for about a decade that Dario wasn't trying to help him. He was trying to loot the ring off of his finger when they met in the carriage accident because Dario then tried to pawn the ring, got arrested, and the chief of police brought George Joestar in as like a witness. And George has a really interesting response to this. rather than saying, "Oh my God, you took my dead wife's wedding ring." He says, I might have done the same thing if I were in your place. I'm not going to press charges, and I will eventually adopt your son if anything happens to you. This idea that if George had been born in the same circumstances as Dario, he would have done the same thing. Is that a nature or a nurture kind of an argument, would you say?
Oh, I think it's probably, well, give it, it all comes back to with this family nature, because there's this
Mm-hmm.
big speechifying piece later. Oh, they're the best aristocrats
The
from Mr.
yes.
Speedwagon.
Yes. It really is. But here's what I think. If Jonathan is stupid because he really wants to believe against all the evidence that Dio is really his brother and there's something good in him, George's sin is that he deeply believes in nurture over nature. He really believes that if he had been born in the same circumstances as Dario or Dio or Speedwagon, he would have become a thief. And in fact, he goes on to say um, he was harder on JoJo than Dio while they were growing up, which we have gotten to see and made at least me really angry. I don't know, were you angry about that, babe? The way
I
that
was
George,
unsurprised.
unsurprised, George really favored Dio and was really hard on JoJo, like abusively hard. But he goes on to explain in this moment that he's dying, he did it because he loved JoJo more, because JoJo was his real son. And his explanation for why Dio ended up turning out so badly, in spite of all of these chances and advantages he's been given, is that George didn't try hard enough with him. If he'd tried as hard with Dio, if he had been as strict with Dio as he was with JoJo, Dio would have turned out as nice as JoJo. Were you surprised to find out that this was what George's thought process had been the whole time?
A little bit, yeah.
I have to admit, for it's kind of depressing. I intuitively knew the first time that I watched it, I knew that that was why he was acting that way. What this says about my upbringing or the way that I would have brought up children if I had human children, probably better not to think about, but it made a lot of sense to me, actually. So, yeah, even as he's dying, George is clinging on to this idea that we have. I feel like I'm not saying that this is true in the world, but within the JoJo verse, it has been amply demonstrated. No, it is nature. It is who you are in your essential self. It is not how you were raised that makes you a good or bad person. And to further this, as you said, George is now dying, and the cop says, "Oh, there goes a great man. It's such a shame." And Speedwagon says, "Absolutely not. Everything that was good in George will live on in Jonathan." And we have a fun little digression about how much Speedwagon hates rich people, but not the Joe Stars. They're giants among men, like I guess literally and figuratively, because they're all big beefy boys. So we get a cute little pieta pose of Jojo holding his dead father. And this is as good a place as any to take a moment and talk about the important influence of sculpture on the art in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. For example, it's pretty clear that the reference pose for this particular moment is Michelangelo's Pietà statue in the Vatican. And in fact, it was Araki's first trip to Italy, where he experienced all of these wonderful classical and Renaissance sculptures for the first time, that enabled him to develop the distinctive three-dimensional JoJo pose style that would become synonymous with his work. And then Speedwagon, because somebody has to be paying attention to what the hell is going on, notices that Dio's body is gone. And horror movie fans everywhere go, well, duh. And the cop, one of the cops, goes to look out the window, and we get an absolute H.P. Lovecraft moment. This is, I believe, because Araki is on record as being a huge horror fan, I believe this is a direct tip of the hat to the short story, The Lurking Fear, where a character goes to look out the window and somebody's like, "Hey, what are you looking at?" And then he sort of falls down because, in fact, his head is gone. It got smacked out the window. So that is what Dio is now doing. And then he comes down and he's standing there at the window. Again, another little visual quote, I think this time from Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot, a reference to keep in mind for later on, potentially. And Jonathan has a gun, but he can't bring himself to shoot this man he thinks of as his brother, even after everything he's done. But Speedwagon does. And I always have a moment when I'm watching something like this. I'm going to ask you, do you think you could do it? Like if I were vampirized and came at you to kill you, could you shoot me in the head or do whatever you needed to do? It looks like me, but it's not me.
Probably, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
how to use a gun. I mean,
Okay.
I know which end of
Use a
bullets.
stake. Use a stake. You're using a stake.
Yeah, possibly.
Wow, that
Depends.
is harsh.
It depends on which kind of universe we're in. I mean,
If you,
zombies
oh
come
yeah,
back in
that is true.
zombies come back in various degrees of decomposition, and
Yeah, I mean, if it
um,
looked exactly like me, much like Dio, I just died 2 seconds ago, and I still look just like me, except maybe my hair is more fabulous, and now I have fangs.
I
It's
mean,
a tricky one.
yeah, it's a
I
big
guess,
point in Shaun of the Dead, isn't it? But
yeah, it is. I mean, and that's one of the things that I think of. I don't know that I could do it. I think that I would not be the final girl in the horror movie, is what I'm saying. Like I wouldn't probably make it to the end because I don't think I have that resolve. And at this point in the story, neither does JoJo. Um, anyway, so everything turns again even more blacklight rave. It's so great. And Dio does his little speech where he says, "I should thank you for the source of this newfound power, your father's blood and this ancient mask, which, as I've pointed out, inherited from mom. Now they're really brothers." And Dio drains a cop and throws him at Speedwagon, breaking his arm. And JoJo, meanwhile, is freeze framed, putting it all together. Tick, 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 tick. That meme of the woman doing the calculations. He figures out, aha, because he's been studying the mask all this time and he knows that the mask was designed to like unlock human potential. And he figures out, well, it's all about manipulating the brain. So, in theory, if I want to kill somebody, all I have to do is dot, dot, dot. And the drained cop now wakes up as a vampire, and JoJo gets to put his theory into practice and go for the
but
head. Now, babe, when you think of go for the head, do you think vampires?
no, I think zombies.
Me too. Me too. But then I was thinking about it. I was actually thinking about it as we were watching it and remembering that in the novel Dracula, you have to cut off the head. Um, it's not the whole thing, but it's part of the thing. But, we talked about how there's that trope, our vampires are different. Everyone who uses vampires kind of reinvents them. For example, Dio doesn't have to get invited back into the house. He can just come in. I mean, and that's a fuzzy area because it is his house, but in this place and setting, I think that zombies and vampires are a lot more similar than we might be used to seeing in other horror franchises. Um, so now Jonathan is no longer conflicted. He's like, okay, now you need to die, mother.
Fugo.
And he picks up a weapon. Do you remember where he grabbed this weapon from? Because it was kind of iconic. It's okay if you don't, it's not a test.
Isn't it from the statue?
It's from a suit of armor.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he grabs like it's like a pole. No, don't worry. It's like a spear thing or a jousting lance. He grabs off of a suit of armor. And interestingly, Araki has said that he deliberately wanted to make those first couple of, well, the first 3 seasons feel really mythic. Each hero's journey is sort of modeled on a different mythic character. And I'm not saying who I think it is, but let's just start thinking about what mythic hero might be being invoked for Jonathan specifically, with an armor and a lance kind of a moment. So he goes with the lance to try to attack Dio, but Dio catches the blade in his hand, and I go, I've seen this before. Did you feel like I've seen this before?
Um, no, no, I didn't have any callbacks to me.
I was just noticing it's what happened when Speedwagon's accomplice Tattoo attacked Jojo in the alley. Do you remember? He goes to stab him, and Jojo just catches the knife in his hand.
Ah,
And then when the vampire attacks Dio, the vampire catches the blade in his hand. So once again, we're just seeing that like these people are super resolved. They don't care how much they have to suffer. They just want to win. Um, and they freeze frame in this pose of, okay, I'm going to get a little Freudian, a little bit English major, but they freeze in this penetrative pose where Dio is being literally penetrated by the lance, and then he bends it and turns it to stab Jonathan in the shoulder. And I think you could actually make the argument that for the rest of this episode, at least, their only goal either of these men have is to penetrate the other one. People talk a lot about how gay JoJo is, but I'm talking about, in a very real, literal sense, Dio wants to get his fingers into Jonathan to take his blood out. Jonathan wants to get a weapon into Dio to get his father's blood out. There is something so, it's almost
you?
like beyond, it's, yes. There's something so me. I was going to say it's almost beyond sexual into something
Uh,
else, like something that's like more Cronenberg, weird, reproductive, alien. I mean, Ripley kind of alien, like Queen alien, not just regular alien. Anyway, so Jonathan gets away from Dio, and we get an iconic shot of Dio looking back over his shoulder. And we've already seen him in this pose a number of times, but so often when we see Dio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, he is with his back to us, looking over his shoulder. I had a thought about why that would be. I'm not putting any pressure on you, but just throwing it out there. Why is he always got his back to us?
because he's running away.
Mm, more literal with what do you do when if I, if I do this, what am I doing to you?
Been a bit rude. I don't know
Yeah, no,
anymore.
I'm turning my back on you. Exactly. Dio is turning his back on his humanity. He's rejecting his humanity. And I think when we see him like that, it's meant to evoke the sense that he is rejecting us, the viewer, as humans. It's like, I think it builds a kind of hard to get element almost that makes him more attractive, as weird as that might sound. Because he's elusive. Like, you can't really, there's no there. You cannot get to Dio. He is always rejecting you. Anyway, so all that aside, while Dio was with his back to us, Jonathan got away behind a curtain, and Dio can smell the blood, so he follows the scent of the blood, and he rips open the curtain, and it's fire, which kind of raises the question, like, could you not smell the fire when you could smell the blood? Did you find this moment a little bit clunky, sweetie?
You raised a good point. It hadn't occurred to me. It all happened so quickly. I
It,
mean,
I
the
mean,
rest
this,
of the rest of the episode went by in a bit of a blur, frankly.
yeah, do you know this is part of the secret sauce of JoJo? It happens so quickly that you don't notice how insane what's happening is. And I love it. I love the fact that we are to suspend our disbelief that he could get back there and set a fire that got going that hard, that fast, and Dio never noticed. Like, There is something so operatic about it. It almost reminds me of when little kids are playing pretend, and one little kid will say to the other, like, okay, now you can't see me because I'm behind a big wall. And the other little kid's like, okay, I can't see you. There's just such a charm to it for me. Anyway, that's just me fangirling out. So this is great. Fire, good way to kill a vampire. Any flavor of vampire is going to die in a fire. However, as Speedwagon points out, because he has become, we had Mr. Expositionman, the sports announcer. Speedwagon is now here to take that role. He points out that Dio's wounds are healing faster than the flames can burn him, and says, "Oh no, this is bad. He's immortal. We can't sort it out." And interestingly, we are in the checkerboard room, but now we are just focused on the red carpet. I'm going to have another English major moment. I feel like this is because it is no longer about polarity. Both Dio and JoJo are in the same headspace, which is red, out for blood, ready to kill, so angry. It's not good versus evil, it's just angry and angry. So JoJo, so sweet, throws Speedwagon out of the way to keep him clear of the fight, grabs the sword from the suit of armor, not the lance, the sword, drives it into the ground, and boings up on it like a springboard in a truly Scooby-Doo style turn of events. And he starts climbing up the stone walls, luring Dio away from Speedwagon. And now I have to take a moment to just appreciate how great this animation is. So Dio is like, "Oh, you want me to follow you? Okay." And rather than climbing, he just turns and kind of like Lionel Richie starts walking up the wall. And he's not just walking, he is like walking the catwalk. He is strutting. It is so beautifully animated. His whole body is in the shadows. So it's just his face. It's almost like just this head coming up the wall on this incredibly slinky body that I kind of wonder if they rotoscoped. It is, to me, if there's a moment that defines like who is Dio Brando, it is this moment. Did you notice it, honey? Did it strike you, or was it just kind of like part of the blur?
Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, it was less part of the blurb, part of the sort of, well, the sort of establishing the mythos of what he can do in his new
Body.
guise.
Yeah. Oh, God. He can do so many exciting things. And I am now tipping my hat a bit about how I feel about Dio. But anyway, it's not a surprise to you, sweetie. You know me. You know what I'm like. Meanwhile, which, sidebar, also love Jonathan so much. Love them both. Meanwhile, poor old George is being incinerated in a visual that I found really reminiscent of Return of the Jedi. I don't know if you got that at all.
Yeah,
Burn.
no, when they burned Anakin stroke Darth
Yeah,
Vader at the end of it.
yeah. I don't know. That was kind of what I felt like. And as this is happening, Jojo says, "Hey, Dad, before you go to heaven, could you lend me your strength?" And I just wanted to sidebar with you here because this is a question that comes up for me. Do you think heaven is literal in the JoJo verse? Do you think we're meant to think George is literally going to heaven, or is it
I think
because
so.
there's you think so?
I I think so. In a world where these vampiric, satanic monsters can exist, I don't think that heaven is going to be
Out
beyond the
of
realms of possibility.
heaven isn't too far away. Are we closer to it every day? I think it's interesting because thinking of another favorite show of mine, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they're quite funny about heaven. They don't want to say yes, heaven. However, they do present like a realm where you feel safe and happy, and you know that everybody that you care about is safe and happy too, and that is equivalent to heaven. I think it's quite interesting, um, thinking about all of these religion questions, which I know you take a really strong interest in. I do think that as well as being in Joe Jangland, we might be having Christianity? A JoJo take on Christianity where there is a literal heaven. I don't know. It's interesting to me. Anyway, all that aside, George is burning up. Jonathan has lured Dio all the way to the exterior rooftop, which is so classic for Greek tragedy. Like, this is where, at the end of Medea, she has murdered her children and now she leaves in a magic chariot. Like, this is where a tragedy ends in classical drama, is on the roof. So it feels really appropriate because this whole thing has actually felt very much like a Greek tragedy. And Speedwagon is down there doing the exposition, and he says, Jojo, don't do it. You're throwing your life away. And then Dio bursts through the roof, looking fabulous, to say, you fight as though you want to die. And I think that this is not a coincidence that we have two major characters telling Jonathan, like, this is it. This is your death, essentially. And as if to back that up, we then get flashbacks of his life so far. And helpfully, it's all flashbacks of stuff we've already seen. We get Sweet Danny, R.I.P. We get Erina, and then we get Dio. Driving home the point that Jonathan's life has been so completely defined by Dio and the many ways that Dio has ruined his youth. And in this moment, if you're anything like me, you realize, oh, that's why the title of the episode is Youth with Dio. Had you noticed that that was the title?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I thought it would be one of the things I thought. The other thing I thought it wouldn't have started. Perhaps it would be an entire show of Dio growing up. But no, that makes a lot of sense. Now you point out.
Seriously, I think you're supposed to think that, and I thought that. I really thought Youth with Dio. Oh, we're gonna see them, I don't know, grow as brothers, or there's gonna be some kind of give and take here. No, it's just what has already been, like the fact that Dio ruined what should, I mean, poor Jonathan, he was a golden child. He should have had a golden childhood, but Dio came and made sure that didn't happen. He robbed him of his youth. And in this moment, JoJo's like, well, screw you, buddy. I'm getting even. And I was curious, babe, he's been so sweet and so forbearing with Dio, even knowing that Dio killed his father. He was still kind of like, But now he's like, okay, now it's time for you to die. Did you feel excited that the worm had turned?
Well, sort of. I think that had been going on for the last 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes in the episode in any event. And it's not really Dio anyway. It's some new thing.
Yeah. I want to talk more about that before we finish this conversation. I really want to talk more about that. You're so right. Anyway, we now get an awesome long shot of the house in the most beautiful gem and the holograms palette. I just want to bathe in it. It's interesting because you might think that a fire scene would be like red and orange, yellow. No, it is pink. It is purple. It is my 7th grade fantasy. It is my Trapper Keeper cover by Lisa Frank. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. And Speedwagon helpfully tells us that Jonathan has been playing for time, waiting for the fire to get hot enough so that he can then throw Dio back down into it, with the fire being now hot enough to burn Dio faster than Dio's vampire powers can regenerate his body. And suiting the action to the word, Jonathan rugby tackles him. Were you excited to see the rugby come back?
I didn't see it as that, to be honest. I just saw it as a, body slam. Sorry.
Maybe that's fair. I mean, we could see it as professional wrestling if we chose to, but I saw it as rugby. I saw this as like, going to use my rugby skills. And Dio stops his fall by just punching his arm into the wall because he's a vampire now and he can do stuff like that. And Jonathan keeps falling. He's burning up, and Dio says one of my favorite lines in the entire series. I don't know if you caught it, babe.
Goodbye, JoJo!
Goodbye, JoJo. He says it in English. It's such a great moment. But it can get lost in the blur. However, JoJo's not giving up. He takes the spear or dagger, lance that Dio has used on him, jams it into the wall, and then uses it again as a springboard to spring up, get Dio, and they grapple, and Dio breaks both of Jonathan's arms, and Jonathan still won't let go. He just won't let go. And this is why I love him so much too. It's so amazing. It's not in him to give up. He is a bulldog. And so they are grappling and falling, and Dio says, okay, that's fine. We'll fall into the fire and you'll die, but I'm going to keep living because I'm a vampire. And then the narrator helpfully kicks in to say, is it George helping, or is it JoJo's familiarity with his home that enables JoJo to essentially do a trick shot like in billiards? He kicks off of the wall, redirects the course of the fall so that their collision course is now with this statue that we've seen throughout the show, with the statue of the Joestar family's guardian angel, or as it's referred to in the manga translation, a goddess of love. Interesting framing. Does it look like an angel to you? Did you notice the statue? Had you
Yeah, I
clocked
thought
it
it
as an
was
angel?
Justice being blind, holding a spear. I didn't see
You're
it as an angel.
close. You're close. It is not holding a spear. It doesn't. It's not an angel because it doesn't have wings. What it is holding is a water jug, and it looks just a little bit like this. Interesting. Do you know what the water carrier is, astrologically speaking?
You know that I don't.
I do know that you don't. It's Aquarius. The star is the guardian angel, belongs to Aquarius. Will that be relevant?
Who
Probably
knows?
not. Let's
I'm
leave
sure we'll
it.
find out.
I don't think so. I think I'm just off on some weird little side quest, and we'll drop that conversation right there.
Shut up!
So Dio falls onto this extremely sharp statue and gets impaled again with this idea you have to penetrate the vampire. I mean, this is not just me. There have been thousands of books written on the subject of why do you have to drive a stake through a vampire? It's all about penetration. There is something sexual inherent to the very concept of a vampire. They penetrate you with their fangs, you penetrate them with a stake. It's a thing. So poor old Dio, as he is getting hit by the statue, he says, I forgot who I was dealing with, hit him on the nose, and he comes back twice as fierce. What is Dio's problem, honey? He keeps forgetting who he's dealing with. We saw it in the last episode. We saw it kind of in the first episode. He keeps underestimating JoJo. What is this about?
He's a congenital optimist.
I think you're not wrong. I think it comes down to fate versus free will a little bit. I think Dio is a serious fatalist. And why wouldn't he be? He was born to the worst, nastiest, most abusive scumsucker, Dario Brando, and he wound up being the beloved son of George Joestar. That is some serious, serious luck. And even when he got caught for poisoning George Joestar, he had a mask to turn into a vampire and escape. But it does look like his luck has run out in this moment. Anyway, Dio is impaled on the statue and burns up, saying, "I had such plans for this world." Again, will that come up later? Nah, probably not. What could the world have to do with Dio Brando? We won't worry about it now. Meanwhile, JoJo lands outside the house where Speedwagon is already hanging out. And again, with this fate versus free will, Speedwagon says, "Oh, you lucky bastard." Is it luck? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm just asking this question. Do you feel like it's luck in this moment? Was Jonathan chosen to win this battle, or was it something he
I
did?
thought so. Yeah. I don't really
I'm,
believe in luck.
you don't have to. You just have to think, is it working in the JoJo verse?
Possibly. No, I don't think it's luck. I
I
think
don't
that
think so either. I think Jonathan earned this win personally. Like, I think the reason Dio lost was he felt like, well, I'm the chosen ones. I'm the lucky one. Of course I'll win. Whereas JoJo just kept fighting and would not stop fighting. Um, anyway, so Jonathan says it's over. At least that's what the subtitles say. Actually, I think in Japanese he's just saying father, I noticed. But it's not true, right? Because as the credits are rolling, and because there's so much happening in this episode, the credits go right over the end of the episode. We pan over to see the Asian apothecary Wang Chun searching through the rubble to get the mask because he knows that this mask has power. Then a hand shoots out and starts sucking his blood. And then we pan over a little bit further and we see this black burnt face with a very distinctive, I think that they now call it a fox eye. I think that this is that trend that everybody is having plastic surgery to get. But we know it's Dio Brando's eye because only he has those. Actually, I'm thinking of Betty Davis eye. We could have a whole new song. He's ferocious. He's atrocious. Ain't no sis can make this bro blush. The whole damn alphabet is onto his lies. 'Cause light's got Dio Brando eyes. And that's the end of the episode. Were you at all surprised that Dio was going strong, or were you like, yeah,
no, we're only
this
3
tracks?
episodes in the
Yeah,
series, so we
he
got
can't die.
we can't die just yet.
Before we wrap up with our typical questions for everyone to ponder, I want to do a little bit of added information that I got from an interview with Dio's voice actor, the icon, the man, the myth, the legend, Koyasu Takehito. On this isn't Joestar Radio, this is JoJo Radio, episode 11, about making episode 3. He said, "It was not a normal experience. It actually seemed like the whole studio was on fire." He even says, "It felt like we were in a burning mansion and we were actually fighting, to the point that he wonders whether anyone looking on would have seen just voice actors or would they have seen two people fighting in a burning mansion." He wasn't acting. He was Dio in this moment, and he's never had another experience like this as an actor. Did any of that come across to you?
I can't say that it did. I mean, yeah.
No, that's okay. It does to me. I really I get chills. I really when I watched that episode, and specifically with Dio's voice actor, he is just on another level. Um, but then he says something else that I think is really interesting. He says, "It's kind of a shame that the story doesn't end here." He feels like this is the perfect ending. We've got Dio's childhood, his youth, his death. Do you feel like could you see that case being made that this is a complete story right here?
Yes, but I think it's the end of his human existence. This is a new existence he's got going on,
Yes.
isn't it?
And in fact, Koyasu Takehito goes on to say, this is the end of Dio Brando. He never felt like he was playing the same character again. He never had that intense connection to the character in the same way. From episode 4 on, Dio Brando is a completely different character as far as he's concerned. And why this is so interesting to me is that I personally have not hated a fictional character as much as I deeply hate Dio Brando. Maybe ever. I really, episode one, two, and three, the human Dio Brando, I hate so much. And I am somebody who always likes the bad guy. You know this better than anyone. I always am like, oh, those poor flying monkeys, they were just doing their jobs. You know, poor Hannibal Lecter. He just needs to meet a nice girl. He could turn it around. But I hate Dio so much. He presses so many deep buttons for me. It's not just the fact that he kills Danny. It's the fact that he does what he does to Erina. It's the fact that he breaks up childhood sweethearts. The fact that he comes between an only child and a single parent. The fact that he takes JoJo's kindness and turns it back against him. I feel like these are all just like, they're very personal issues to me. However, from here on out, I feel completely free and at liberty to love Dio Brando the way I want to love Dio Brando because he's a vampire. You can't think, Freddy Krueger needs to go to jail. No, he's just Freddy Krueger, right? Like, Dracula's not a bad person. He's Dracula. So it will be interesting to see where Dio goes from here. And now I have some sort of related questions, but I'm gonna go to the question arena, and you can comment as much or as little as you want to on these. These are for you. They're also for the folks at home. And I'm hoping to do like a little follow-up video to maybe read some comments and discuss further. Question number one. Why is Speedwagon such a Joestar stan? Isn't it kind of weird that he just followed him home from London? He wasn't invited. He says, no, I thought you might get in trouble, so I followed you.
That's a really good question, and I don't have an answer to that. It did actually, it didn't occur to me, but it did actually think, oh, you know, whose side he going to be on? Oh, he's on Jonathan's side. Okay, and then something else happened, and so
And
it
you
moved
lost
on.
track. Yeah. No, it is quite interesting. I think maybe there's a clue in what he says about how he always hated rich people until he met the Joestars. And then there's the other theory, um, which is my go-to theory. Like maybe there's a hint of romance there.
Yeah,
Who
well,
can
that's you all
say?
over those.
It is. It is me all over. But it's something that we can let marinate. Question number two. Did George's parenting techniques work at all? Who is actually the one most responsible for the way each of the boys turned out?
I don't think he's got any responsibility for it whatsoever. I just think, it's this nature versus na nurture thing in this universe anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is possible.
I mean, there's a lot of
I
emphasis on blood. It's the title of the
it
whole thing,
is.
which
It
which
is.
suggests genetics and
Yeah. I definitely think that it not forever in JoJo, maybe, because I think in other seasons, parts, we might get different answers to this question, but for sure in these early stages of the JoJo verse, it really is about your blood inheritance. I would like to posit maybe JoJo and Dio raised each other. I
maybe.
don't think I don't think JoJo would be self-reliant, brave, resolute if he'd grown up the spoiled son of a millionaire. And I don't think Dio would be so clever and cunning and resourceful if JoJo wasn't batting him down at every turn. But it's just a thought. Question 3. Dio's actual physical character design was based on a character that I think you know and appreciate. A character from the world of cyberpunk, someone who notably had their tears melt in the
Oh,
rain.
Rutger Hauer, in Blade Runner, whose name Roy Batty in Blade Runner.
Yes, yes. I think there's a significance there that Dio is based on somebody who is in the story of Blade Runner. What is Roy Batty?
He's a this is awful. I can't remember. He's they call them replicants in
Yeah, I think
Blade
so.
Runner.
And just like Dio, I think it's fair to say that Roy Batty has a few anger issues with his father. He's not human. He's not human. I think it kind of begs, and when you look at Dio's behavior, he's rejected his humanity, but did he actually have any humanity to reject in the first place? That's my big question. I don't have an answer to this. I'm just grappling with it because has he shown any humanity in these 3
Oh,
episodes?
yes, he has. He hasn't shown the positive sides of humanity, but he has shown
No, say more. That's really interesting.
well, humanity is not about being. You're suggesting it's uniquely positive, but it's not. But by any means, it's far from it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, no, that serious food for thought. I'm going to have to think about that some more. Really interesting. Okay. Question 5. Dio planned to steal JoJo's birthright. He told us that in episode 1. Has he succeeded?
Well, he's burnt the house down.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't stolen his honor.
That's true. He took his father. Or did he take his father?
That's not your parents aren't your birthright. Your parents give you your birthright or pass it on.
I sort of saw it as his birthright is to be this beloved only son. And Dio took.
Yeah, I suppose so. No, I don't see it like that. It's that he's taken the family inheritance of being, as Mr. Speedwagon says, they're jolly good chaps, and he's going to be a jolly good chap.
That is true. No one can take away his jolly good chap status. You're not wrong. You've pointed out quite rightly, Dio has ended his life in this episode. Whatever we see from here on out, it's not Dio, it is some new thing. Can we say the same about Jonathan?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to find out next time.
I suppose that's true. I feel like even within this episode, Jonathan has shown that he's become a different person. Even from the beginning of this episode to the end of the episode, he's become a different person. When he pointed that gun at Dio, he couldn't shoot it. And at the end, he brutally impaled him on a statue. I think he's becoming a different person. I could go even further and say that just as the human Dio dies in this episode and is reborn as a vampire, the child Jonathan dies in this episode and is reborn as a man. Why else does his life flash before his eyes? He has become a new character with new responsibilities, no longer a son, but the man of his family. But that's just my opinion. And I suppose we will leave it there. Until next time, to be continued.